It is spicy, baby. It is spicy. Welcome to Her Sports Convo with Ashleigh Wilson. Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Crazy to see you here again. I hope you had a good week last week. I hope you have a good week this week. Oh, my goodness. It is December, the last month of the year. How did we even get here? It just feels like the year started, but also everyone and their grandma decided to lose their minds this week in the time we decided to talk to each other. I mean, biggest news I have to say that came out of all the things that happened this week is college football decided to turn its head upside down on the last week. They were like, you know what? Let's just lose our minds and just throw everything out the wall and see what sticks, because they tried it and it obviously worked. Because it was like every single day you open up Twitter, you open up ESPN or whatever, and something else has occurred. If you know, Lincoln Riley said bye-bye Boomer Sooner, hello the Trojan horse. And after watching Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, I had no expectation that this man was going to leave his job, pick up his family, and move, halfway across the country. But I knew it wasn't a good look. One, because they lost to Oklahoma State, and, their season was not what their season was supposed to be. We can go back to the first week, or week 4 or 5, when he had to sit Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, that entire game, homie looked exhausted, especially that last drive. Like, every time they put the camera on that man, he was like, I thought at one point his eyes were going to start rolling in the back of his head. Like, I was genuinely concerned for homie. And then we move on to a few days later and his coach leaves. And in some ways, I'm going to say it surprised me, because he was building a program there. And obviously their first year where they don't actually get to the college football playoffs, like they got there last year and they were always in the conversation, and this year they really removed themselves from the conversation so early on. And the fact that, Lincoln, I guess he had enough. I mean, one not too great season, and knowing that they're moving to the SEC in the next few years, and you're already falling down in your statue and your stance in the Big 12 by not making it to that Big 12 game. I kind of see where he's coming from about, it's time for me to pack my bags and move out of town, because he's going to the SEC and he'll be playing in the same, obviously he'll be playing in the same conference of the Alabamas and Georgias, but also he'll be in the same division as Alabama. So yeah, you can't blame the man for not wanting to go up against Bama with a team who can't even beat Oklahoma State. Now, no shade to Oklahoma State. They went out there and they balled their little booties off. Like, go Pokies, which I truly don't understand the whole Pokies thing, because you're Cowboys. So if one of y'all are out there, let me know how that works, because I was real confusion the whole entire game. But they played very well and they deserve that win 100%. But when you look at what they were supposed to do this year and what they did, when you're talking about Oklahoma, it was very lackluster. And also, they gave that man a whole bunch of money. And over here, we have no problems with people chasing the bag, because, bills got to be paid. Money has to be saved. We can't be mad at someone for, taking their money and hitting the road. And because it said in the statements that USC is going to pay for his house, because him and his wife built this nice fancy $6 million. What was it? It was a $2 or $3 million house in Norman, Oklahoma for them to move into. And they're giving him $6 million for that house, twice as much as it's worth. And they're paying for him a house in LA. It sounds like a great deal to me. It was I think the deal he signed with them is either 8 or 10-year deal. All signs were leading to, let's go to California, let's move to LA. Now, the part that I thought was just really interesting was the fact that everyone thought, he's moving to Louisiana, he's going to take the LSU job. Little did we know, we were looking left and he was talking to the right side over there going to USC. And that's what's truly surprised me. Him leaving Oklahoma this season, not the biggest surprise. Him leaving Oklahoma and going to SoCal, That's the biggest surprise, because as we know over here, I have been on the train of Urban Meyer is losing his mind, trying everything under the sun to go to California. But now that option is no longer available to him. So where will Urban Meyer be moving to? Will he be moving to the next open spot in college football as Brian Kelly? If you know Brian Kelly, you know he used to be the coach of Notre Dame, is now the coach of LSU, which I am not one of the people out here who believe, the coach has to fit the culture of the team. I don't believe that, as Ed Orgeron is so backwoods country, Louisiana. Every idea you have of someone from Louisiana, that is Ed Orgeron. And they fired this man 2 years after winning the national championship. So I don't think you need to have that same personality. But I just don't see how Brian Kelly can sit in someone's mama's house at their kitchen table and sell them that, I can do something good for your kid outside of this game of football. You know what I mean? Because if you look at the demographic of the people who played for Notre Dame, and you look at the demographic for people who play for LSU, you will see something that's not the same. And I just don't see Brian Kelly as the guy who's going to be able to relate and pull those people in, especially as a lot of his staff, one of his major defensive coordinators, he's trying to take with him to LSU, and he's not really budging because he kind of wants the head coaching job at Notre Dame. So I can't even really blame Freeman for that. It's just not adding up. Aside from, the demographics of coming from Notre Dame and moving to LSU, aside from that whole thing, is that Brian Kelly is like 60 years old. And the average age of retirement I saw is 62. So we all know Brian Kelly has made more than enough money to make his way in this league, make his way in the time. And the fact that now he'll be 2 years from the average retirement age and going to LSU on a 10-year, $95 million deal, which I could be right or wrong. That should be around $50 million a year, as the rumors have it. The amount of money they're going to pay him out, because he's not making it to 10 years. This man is not going to be coaching football at the age of 70. And he ain't sure going to be coaching football at LSU to the age of 70. So the amount of money they're going to spend trying to buy Brian Kelly out of that LSU coaching job is hysterical. And I hope the boosters at LSU, have a great time with whatever is left with their athletic department, specifically their football team, by the end of this Brian Kelly run, because it's going to be different. Because as we know, LSU is DBU, and you're not going to get those people coming to play for Brian Kelly. As you know, Brian Kelly runs a very in the trenches offensive line, defensive line kind of system. And he doesn't really care about the skinny boys running the out routes. You know what I mean? No offense to the skinny boys running the out routes, but that's not what Brian Kelly runs. So it's a mess. It's a mess outside from the coaches changing. It's also a mess on the transfer portal, because as the season is over and people are looking to either enter the draft or change schools because their team had the worst season, or surprisingly had a good season, but their coach is leaving when they're literally a playoff team, consider it, at Notre Dame. Everyone and their grandma is now in the transfer portal, and it's like people are just pulling out and going places. Like Michigan State, they signed the running back who used to be at Wisconsin. Now he's at Michigan State. And on the recruitment side, everyone's decommitting on one day, as Oklahoma lost 5 commits in less than 24 hours, which is completely insane. And now you have very legit people, looking into going to USC to follow Lincoln Riley, or just straight up transferring from Oklahoma at Spencer Rattler and another one of their pretty prominent wide receivers and quarterbacks. It's just not a good look right now for college football. And if you're a new fan of college football, I know you're like, what in the world did I just get into? Because this is a hot mess. And all I have to say is, if you are new, be appreciative of what you have, because this is definitely not going to come around anytime soon, because college football is crazy. You know, I love the pop and circumstance. I love the hoop and the hoopla that we give to, 17 to 24-year-olds. But the issue that I'm currently having with what's going on is that we come back to the debate of loyalty as one of the other popular things you see at the end of college football season is, players who are going to the league and going to be drafted in a few months. They choose not to play in meaningless bowl games. And when I say meaningless bowl games, I mean Miss Harriet and Papa Joe's side court shop bowl game. So those are the meaningless bowl games I'm talking about. And people like dog these kids out on the internet. Now, I say kids, and we are all the same age, but let's move on. For their choice to putting themselves ahead of a meaningless bowl game that they barely squeaked into because their team is 6-6. Like, you can't be mad at these people, because at this point for them now, it's a business decision. And that's the same way why I don't understand why some people are coming for, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, but also on the other hand, not coming for Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, because they're like, oh, this is a business decision. And they, they're following their dreams of wanting to be the top coach at the blah, 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 blah school. And I just hope that because of what Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley are doing, and also what Mel Tucker did, the head coach for Michigan State, because that's truly what started all this. Mel Tucker got that 10-year deal with Michigan State at $9.5 a year, and he has set the domino effect at what is happening at the college football level at these major schools. And schools are, one, holding on to what they got, as Kentucky, signed Mark Stoops to a extension to 2027, literally on Tuesday as I'm recording this, because they're like, we don't want to lose Mark to somebody else. And he has had Kentucky football go into their 6th consecutive bowl game this year. And like I said, we just really got to give Mel Tucker his credit, because he's truly starting this new phase in, college football head coaching positions. One, that, more black people can get into the situation, be a head coach of a prominent university, as well as, have a long-term deal that in no way, like, you can be the greatest coach ever, and the likelihood of you making it out of a 10-year contract. Now, yes, I know Nick Saban has been at Alabama for a long time. Like, at the end of every season, I think in his current contract, he has the option of, like, I'm good. Like, I'm done, And so the likelihood of a coach, especially a coach that hasn't won a national championship, making it out of that kind of contract is completely insane and not very realistic, as 10 years is a long time in college football. Like, a year is a long time in college football. So I couldn't imagine signing someone on for 10 years, but that is becoming basically the mandatory now because of what Mel Tucker did with that contract. So shout out to you, Mel Tucker. We appreciate it. We love it. And if you're a fan of college football, congratulations. You have literally had the best 3 days and possibly the next best 3 weeks coming to you, as the final standings come out on Sunday. And we're entering the weekend of championships, which are going to be fun to see. Is Cincinnati going to, put the cherry on top and win the Athletic American Conference and actually be the first non-Power 5 in? Who knows? So make sure you come back next week, because we're definitely going to be talking about all that. As we all know, I am an Anthony Edwards stan. I would say I'm the president of his fan club, obviously outside of his immediate family, of course. But that dunk that he had this past week, if you don't know what I'm talking about, he went up to dunk the basketball and had a full-on, man bits in the other player's face for the Miami Heat moment. And the Miami Heat bench lost their mind. Like, that's how you've done something. And they called it an offensive penalty. They called it a charge. It didn't count. Like, that should be illegal for it not to count when the other team's bench is hyping you up, has lost their mind for what you have done. It should just automatically count no matter what. But unfortunately, he didn't. But that was still arguably the best dunk I've seen all season. And I cannot wait to, I was going to say possibly see Anthony Edwards in a dunk contest, but that's probably not going to happen. But him at All-Star Weekend, I can see it now. Anthony Edwards, the headliner for All-Star Weekend 2022. No, okay, definitely 2023. But the second greatest thing that man has done this past week was in a press conference after his game on Monday. His phone rings. You know, in the year 2021, basically 2022, you expect someone to pull out a what? An iPhone. Maybe if they're kind of sort of lame, a Samsung, but definitely some mobile device that's 99.9999% screen. Not our homie Anthony Edwards. This man pulls out a flip phone, a Motorola Razr. Are we in the early 2000s? Like, if anyone else would have done that, I would have laughed so hard. But that's so Anthony Edwards that I'm like, I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for it. 100%, 117%. And this goes to another segment of this podcast where we, spend way too much time talking about Anthony Edwards. But for some reason, if you're out there, Anthony, and during this off season, during the little All-Star break, you feel like you want to meet a new friend. I'm here. We're here. We can have a great episode. We can do a main channel of it. Whatever you want, we can get it. Because Anthony Edwards, I am a stan. And I am about 3 more things away from what you're doing to buying an Anthony Edwards jersey and possibly wanting to attend a Minnesota Timberwolves game. And the last thing that I personally want to talk about is college basketball. Now, yes, the men, Dayton beat Kansas. Good for Dayton. They're always underrated. And Gonzaga lost to Duke, and now they're like a 3 seed in Duke's number 1. And also Gonzaga beat the brakes off UCLA. Yeah. We all saw this coming. But the best entertainment in college basketball right now is coming from the women's side. Everyone's upsetting everyone. It's literally number 1, South Carolina, everybody else. And I'm here for it. As we know, Aaliyah Boston, love you, girl. How you doing? You're killing it. Like, it's like every single day someone else is getting upset. And I mean, if you're not tapped in, what are you doing? You're missing out on all the goodness that college basketball is about. And don't give me the little excuse if you don't know where to find the women's game, blah, 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 blah. They're all on the ESPN app, which I know you have. And I'm not talking about ESPN Plus because that just costs too much and it's unnecessary. I'm talking about the regular ESPN app, as well on the ESPN channels, on the SEC network, on the ACC network. Like, you need to tap in, because if you're out there watching these blowout games of the men's side and you're not tapping into these really close games in the women's side, because it is spicy, baby. It is spicy. And you already missed the first 2 weeks. Don't miss the third, the fourth, and the rest, because you're gonna want to hit yourself upside the head. You're gonna want to hit yourself upside the head, and I don't want you to hurt you. But y'all, you gotta tap in. Because it's crazy out here. Like last week, Stanford beat the number 2 team, which you would think Stanford would be higher ranked since they literally won the whole thing last year, as well as Paige Beckers signed a contract with Gatorade, being the first NIL student athlete person to work with Gatorade. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this because I really am going to do a main channel video, www.youtube.com/user/hersportsconvo, so you don't miss that. But I'm just going to pose a question and y'all let me know in the comments or the Instagram DMs. On the men's side, they go to the NBA to make more money. But is it the opposite for the women's side? I think so. That, them staying all 4 years, they can make so much more money, especially now with NIL, that they can move them, they can move the meter closer to their side when it comes to college basketball. So let me know. Let me know in the comments down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at hersportsconvo. And that is also our feel good moment. By the way, I'm really doing bad at these. We're gonna get better. December is here. I'm going to strive to do a feel good moment for every podcast episode of the month. Don't hold me to it, but that's our goal. As well as that is all I have for this week's episode. Make sure to like, comment, rate, subscribe wherever you decide to listen to your podcast at. Head on over to Instagram and follow at Her Sports Convo to stay up to date on all things Her Sports Convo. December 17th, 7 p.m. It's a Friday. Make sure you are on the YouTuber on the Her Sports Convo YouTube channel so you don't miss the holiday live show. I have amazing friends coming on. We're doing some of the fun things that we're known to do over there on the main channel. You don't want to miss it. We're having a good old time. Wearing our Santa hats, make it a party. Invite your friends. Y'all come over. Y'all watch it together. It's going to be a party. And I really want you to be there because I don't want you to miss it. So write it down. Go ahead and go over there and subscribe to the Her Sports Convo main channel so you can get notified and all that stuff. As well as put it in your calendar. Make a little notes tab for it because you don't want to miss it. It's going to be such a fun time. As well as subscribe to the Her Sports Convo podcast channel if you're watching it. Hit that little button down there if you're listening to it. I appreciate you. But also go over there and watch me talk to myself a time or two a week. As always, be safe, have fun, and don't be afraid to join the convo.